if we've got children who need to revise, um, we just, the way I've come to think about it is, if you ask someone to like paint the wall or build a wall or something, you can see that they've done it. I talked about this last week, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. But with revision, you can't see anything. Revision, you have no idea if your kids are doing good revision. Even they don't even necessarily know if they're doing good revision. A lot of them, you can't see what's going on. You can't see, are they doing what they need to do? Is it high quality work? Even just with homework, it becomes increasingly hard to regulate, which is a good thing, because it's begging for these young people to actually engage in it in a wholehearted and authentic way. So, yeah, the issue with revision is that GCSE revision, or if someone's revising, international people that are here and you don't know what GCSEs are, any big exams by the time you're kind of 15, 16, 18, whatever time that happens in your country, by the time a young person is revising in that sort of way, sometimes they just have no idea how to go about it. They don't even want to do it. There isn't that natural motivation. They lack the overview in that subject of what they even need to do. And they lack the desire, they lack vision, they lack loads of things from this education system, which has not really prepared them in some ways for this moment. So, um, revision needs to be, it demands that it's done. I mean, with the students I'm working with, I'm really concentrating with them on quality above quantity. Certainly one thing to get away from, if you're a parent and you're supporting your child to revise, don't yourself, and I have to watch myself with this as well, don't quantify it in hours. An hour of revision, an hour of revision, or 10 hours of revision, it can be absolutely worthless, like just totally worthless. And I think probably all of us know that in our own experience. So I know for myself, I've done like 10-hour days in the library when I was an undergraduate, really without any value at all. I was at the coffee machine chatting with friends and just staring at these books. I didn't have much drive those days, and I was just kind of putting myself in that position so that I could feel a bit better about myself. So I could feel like, yeah, I'm working. I'm not out there like lying in the sun or partying or whatever else I was kind of doing when I was 20, 21. I'm revising. But was I revising? And the answer many times was no. Such a low return from 10 hours in the library. So, with the students I'm working with, I'm really encouraging them. I know they are not natural revisers. These are like two of them are brilliant footballers, looking to turn professional, one of them. And you can just imagine this type of student, not a perfect fit for being behind a desk, very bright, lovely guy, but many of them that I'm working with, it's just not a natural fit. So working with them on revision is awesome, because you're really having to say, like, make sure you really are valuing yourself in this process. I want them to feel real dignity in their working process. When they sit down and they do some revision, I want it to count. I want it to be really like the bit of work that they most need to do to improve in that subject, or to start feeling good about their prospects in that subject. That also really helps at this stage, to start building their confidence, to come away from that half hour not just being able to tell their mum that they've done half an hour's revision or something, but to really come away like nourished, to come away actually feeling like half an hour's chemistry, not my favorite subject either, but that half an hour's chemistry has enriched them. And this might sound completely pie in the sky, but it's not. That's the mode for working. The mode for working when you're really, and 10 minutes, I'm just asking them to explore what it's like when they do like quality work, like really, when they come away having enjoyed it, that might not be a word they resonate with completely, but they kind of know what I mean, that they've really devoted themselves to it, that they've immersed themselves in it for however long or short a time. Like I say, it's not to do with the time, it's to do with the task. It's to do with getting that task done, watching that 5-minute or 10-minute biology video on YouTube. There's so many good resources, by the way. If you don't know that, YouTube, just Google search GCSE anything in YouTube, put in the word GCSE if that's the exam your child is preparing for, and you can see the quality. You can see what's the quality and what's just the usual YouTube stuff. GCSE chemistry, wow, I found some amazing resources for my students on YouTube. So yeah, watching that 5-minute video, but watching that 5-minute video and then, was I zoning out? Did I just zone out in that whole? Did I actually get the goods? Did I actually get the learning? Did I stay with the video? So yeah, this is also part of it for these young sort of 14, 15-year-olds. Many of them don't really have this skill. They don't have the skill to make sure that it's really going to count. It's going to count in the exam, that they're going to be able to reproduce that content. They don't have to be note takers, although, obviously just watching a video, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to produce it on the day. So they need to find their own way. And fundamentally, this topic for me is another topic to do with trust. So we have to just trust them that they can develop these skills. So in this holiday period, right here we are now, most people are on holiday by now, or if they're not on holiday now, they're on holiday tomorrow or Friday. In this holiday period, as a parent, just you need to support them. This is what I do, but if you're doing this yourself, just you need to support them to find what is their daily schedule, what would they like to commit to, what would they suggest. Take all of the sting out of it, don't have any pressure in that conversation, and really ask them, like, what does it look like? When are the hours that would be really good for you to work? And all of my students have said different things. Some are like 10 a.m., some are like 4 p.m. Those are their power hours. They want to work first thing in the morning, get it out the way, and then they're free. Or they want to work 4 p.m. because they wake up and they play their game all morning, So I'm totally fine with this. I know this is really provocative for lots of parents, but if your kid's a gamer, and that they've got like 1 or 2 good hours revision in them every day, that they could commit to 1 or 2 hours a day, and that would actually be a good result, even though the school is saying they should do 6 or 8, then great. Let's be realistic and just go for 2. So if they pick their hours, they can pick their hours whenever they want to do it, and just support them to do that. And again, if they don't do it, let's not double down on them. Like, some of my students have had 2 days and it's been a bit all over the place. They haven't shown up at 11 a.m. when they said they would. To me, to themselves, I'm just a mirror. So they're just saying to themselves, I want to do it at 11. It helps to visualize it. It helps them to go, okay, this is what I've said I'm going to do. And that supports them in various ways, whether they do it or not. So also be gentle in this period. Don't throw the book at them if they don't fulfill their own self-direction, and they don't fulfill their side of the bargain straight away. They're learning. This is like the real learning in this whole process, way beyond getting the grades or whatever, is self-leadership. It's that they can actually identify what they want to do. They can identify their own motivation, their true motivation, to contribute to themselves in this phase of their lives. How do they want to contribute to themselves in this preparation for maths or something, in this preparation for chemistry? What have they got to give that, and how do they want to structure it? How do they want to lead on that? And we as parents and educators have to kind of take our hands off. We cannot, as we've seen so clearly through our education system, we cannot make them do it. Like, everything we've put in place to make students jump through the hoops has just drained the flipping life out of them. So it's drained the life out of them, the subjects, the whole purpose of education. So we have to take this brave leap to leave them alone whilst being supportive and present, and just to check in with them. How did it go? Is there any way that I can help you day to day. Otherwise, go. It's all good. Go for it. These are your exams. It's your preparation period. So just honor them completely in the process, which is hard to do for some parents, but essential. Otherwise, and actually, this is interesting. Some parents this week have said to me, you know, I just feel like I should, if they don't do it, for example, that there's some sort of threat or punishment there, whether it's I should just take it away, take the game away from him, or I should just make him. Basically that's the feeling. And I've called every single one of those parents out. Yeah, I completely understand it. I really love that they share so openly with me, but I have just said, look, really, drop that story because that is not an option. Like they actually know that is not an option. Doubling down on them, taking the game away, punishment and reward. We've all tried that. They've tried it. They've tried it so many times, and it's produced this wretched situation of lack of trust, lack of motivation, lack of self-direction in their child. So they know that actually, even though the story bangs on in their mind of like, I really should be taking more responsibility in some ways, I should be doing something about this, they shouldn't. They can't. So like, you've just as a parent, you got to rest with these big feelings that come up of like, I should be controlling more, I should be making them do this or something. And I'm afraid the schools do put a lot of pressure on you. It's not a great thing. I wouldn't accept it. I wouldn't accept that as your pressure. And yeah, it's actually, if we're honest with ourselves, it is not an option to double down on our kids. It's not an option to bring that level of conflict into the house in a year 11, year 10 intensity, or whatever situation you're in now with your child. So yeah, when that idea comes up that that's what you should be doing as a parent, just acknowledge that. That's like, wow, that is just an old record playing, and actually it's not an option. If it was an option, it might get a result, then I would consider it with you. But in most cases, it's very clear what the result would be there, which is even less motivation, like family conflict and terrible results, literal terrible grade results as well, with the emotional turmoil created by it. So let's go with what really is an option, which is to empower these young people to learn what it's like to structure their own days, what it's like to do 1 hour, 2 hours. I've seen, a day, which doesn't sound like a great deal, but most educators that I listen to who are preparing people for GCSEs in the way that I think they should be prepared, say the same thing. 2 good hours, like 2 really high quality immersed hours a day is enough. I mean, most people are doing 6 hours a day of garbage. Like it's not really revising. It's just kind of time in their room, making sure mum and dad don't come in and they've got the work all there, and otherwise they're on their phones, so 2 good hours is plenty. So yeah, we're practicing with our children. We're enabling them to see what it's like to self-direct for 1 hour, 2 hours a day. And there's so many reasons why this is a challenge for them, which I probably don't need to go into. What I do want to go into is what we can do. So yeah, I want to run through 5 steps that I prepared for how we as parents can enable our kids to revise better, how we can enable this Easter holidays period if it's an intense period for you. And this is also appropriate for just homework in general. If you've got a 6-year-old, 8-year-old, homework, revision, same thing. So the first step, same skill at least. The first step is to take responsibility for our own part in it. Now, one thing we cannot do is blame our kids for not being self-directed when we've put them into a schooling system that systematically disempowers that. So we can't blame them for the fact that they don't have these tools, they don't have these skills. We have not prepared them for that in the most part, so rolling our eyes and blaming them for the fact they're not motivated and being kind of just, we know that really the most empowering way to be with that is to take responsibility for all that we have done. Putting them into this schooling system, I understand there aren't many other good options available. So, we've all had to do that to some degree, compromise on the ideal. Like, I don't have the ideal locally to me right now. We tried one ideal with setting up our own school. That was extremely hard work. So, it's hard to make the ideal. Homeschooling, is it the ideal? On your own, you're studying on your own a lot of the time. So, we have to just accept our kids have not been best prepared for this moment. And that's, we have to take our share of responsibility for their lack of motivation, their lack of self direction, their lack of maturity, their lack of interest, all of it. And that's just to empower us to just go, okay, they are not to be blamed at this point, because that's not going to help. And they have so much power in a good way. Like, our kids have so much power, and part of the resistance and the rebellion is their true power. And we want to find that and harness that. We want to harness like what they actually want. In amongst the rebellion or the pushback with their academics, there's also a wish to do well. There is in every student I've ever met. So what you've got to do is get to that. You've got to get to that authentic drive that they have to not bomb their exams in the summer. Who wants to do that? I don't care like how bad the situation looks, or how unacademic someone might be, or how much this is not a good fit, this whole model of education for them. Basically, they all want to do well. They're running with the pack. They don't want to be the guy or the girl who gets like 2 GCSEs or less, or loads of fails, whatever. So they do have that motivation in them, but we need to take all the noise of our pushing and our wish to support them away, so that they can actually act. Second step, open up communication. Make a plan with them. And the communication's key, like in a way I've already touched on it. You need to be able to have these conversations with your children where they can genuinely confide in you about what their plan is. If they say, I want to do 1 hour a day, if you blow up at that and say, what, you've got like at least, that's no way that's going to be enough. You're getting threes in all your subject, whatever it is, twos, threes. You've got to just go with what's realistic. And if they say 1 hour a day, start with one. I let them lead on it. I just trust that when they say, I could do 1 hour a day, and that's their measured opinion, that's what they should do. Find the right hour in the day when they can do that. Ask them, what time are you going to do that hour? And then you can start to build up a plan. What are you going to do? What are the main things you need to do with each subject? What are the main resources you need? Like, what do you need to find out from your teacher? What is the Firefly or whatever the kind of online intranet thing in your school? What's the provision there? Like, how are you going to chunk down 5 good hours this week or 10 good hours this week into tasks? And then, how can I support you to get them done without policing you, without monitoring too heavily? Just how can I support you? Step 3, find out what they really want. So in a way you are saying like, what do you want come June, kind of thing. What sort of results do you want? And again, when I ask the students this, they're like, I want to get 5s in everything. I'm like, okay, if you want 5s in everything, there is some work to be done, right? I mean, at the moment you're on a 3 in these 4 subjects. Let's look at the ways that we can really turn these around. And then, of course, for them, there is so much more excitement, so much more focus, because they're like, okay, if I do revise Othello, if I do go to YouTube and watch some of those recaps on Othello, if I do find 20 good quotes, whatever it might be, then like, English literature, that's now like a possibility for me to pass, whereas beforehand it wasn't. If I do go to YouTube and watch like 6 5-minute videos, I will have covered that module of chemistry. Like, that will, so this is where it all kicks in, making a plan. If you want to be involved in that, then I'm sure if they would welcome it, that can be really great. That can be great to have you also helping them there, not checking up on them, but helping them structure the plan, and then checking in with them if you can, if it's appropriate. How's it going? And can I help with anything more? I've already mentioned helping them with the challenge of understanding what on earth it is they need to do. So a lot of students don't know. They don't email their teachers and say, what should I be revising this holidays? They don't know where the resources are. They're kind of up there online, but they don't go there. So go there. Look at read the teacher's page of like, this holidays you should do this. That's the goal. That's like really what they should be doing. That's what's going to be tested on in their exams, most likely. The teachers know. So some students need a bit of help to also just go there, to write themselves to their teachers. Don't do it for them if you can avoid it. Get them to really fill in their own overview and their own sense of what's needed. And the biggest last piece, and I must go now, I've got a student at midday, is don't micromanage them. In this period, just do everything you can to sit on your hands. As many of the mums say, I'm sitting on my hands, Henry. It's not one of my instructions, but they just naturally tell me I'm just trying not to get involved, trying not to, um, yeah. Try not to get in the way like that, in the way that we know we have done probably for years and years. Micromanaging the revision is just not going to produce a good result. But also, fine to call them out. If after a whole week it really looks like nothing much is going on, come back to them with a real conversation, not blaming, not shaming, but just saying, like, how do you feel about how the holidays are going? How do you feel about your preparation? Is there anything else I can help you with, or is it all good? And if they say it's all good, it's all good, then fine, leave them to it. There's not, you can't push harder than that. It's not going to get a good result. But you can call them out if you think they're just completely avoiding responsibility and it's extreme.